This is the story of one of the most terrifying locations in Mexico. This is the story of the Island of the Dolls. Now, before I get this started, I want to note that I'm not fluent in Spanish, so if I mispronounce anything in this video, I apologize. In the mid-20th century, a man named Don Julian Santabarrera left his hometown of Mexico City for a small island on Tishuilo Lake. At first, his motivation wasn't all that clear, but it eventually came to be known that he wasn't in the best state of mind. Shortly after arriving, he made a discovery that would change the course of his life, as well as the course of the island, forever. A little girl's body drowned in the river. Shortly after he found her, a doll floated down the river, which he hung from a nearby tree out of respect to the little girl and to appease her spirit. Now, one would think this was enough for Don, but this was not the case. Don would continue to hang dolls he picked from the canals and trash around the island for the next 50 years. Some of the dolls he picked were in decent condition, but others were in such disrepair that they looked more like horror movie props. Now, despite this clearly not being the actions of a sane man, one question still remained out of the entire situation. Who was this little girl that Don had found? While some people say the girl never existed, including Don's own family, the fact remains that no body for this little girl was ever found, and the reality of whether or not she existed remains a mystery. What is clear is that Don dedicated his entire existence to this little girl for the next 5 decades until he passed away in 2001. His drowned body was discovered in the same place as the little girl. Nowadays, all that remains is the same dolls that Don had hung around the island for decades. The Island of the Dolls, despite the horrific history, remains a popular tourist destination to this day. The dolls often gain new friends all the time as people bring dolls to pay respects to both Don and the little girl. Some claim to see the dolls moving or hearing them talking, but no such evidence of this actually happening has been presented. But what is clear is that Don lived a life dedicated to this little girl he believed in, and his demise came in an eerily similar way to her. While the story behind the Island of Dolls is terrifying in and of itself, the location is just as creepy and remains one of the most fascinating, disturbing, and terrifying locations in all of Mexico.